Okay, Hannah?
What meeting is it tonight?
Yeah, we're live.
We're live now? All right then. Here we go. Good evening and welcome to Crewe Town Council Virtual Community Planning Meeting. Just before I move to the agenda, at this point in a normal meeting, I would be asking you to put your phone on silent. But as this is the new normal, instead of putting your phone on silent, could I ask you to mute yourself during the meeting and raise your hand if you'd like to make a contribution. I will then invite you to speak. Thank you for your understanding. If I could move to the agenda, item number 1, to receive any apologies for absence. I know we've already had one, Hannah, but have we got any more?
No, just had the one from Councillor Morrissey.
Thanks, Hannah. Moving on to item 2, to note declarations of members' interests. Do any of you members have any interest to declare? Judging by the responses I'm getting that we have no one any interest to declare. Item number 3, public participation. Do we have any members of the public, Hannah, or not?
No, we've no one joining us and no one submitting any comments or questions.
So no need to move on to item number 4. Sorry, item number 5. To confirm the minutes of the Community Plan Committee meeting held on the 20th of February 2020 attached. I believe you were there, Ben, and Jill, I think, was there. Could you confirm the minutes?
Yeah, I can move those.
Thank you. Jill,
Happy to second them.
thank you very much. Moving on to item 6. To note the year-to-date financial position for the community plans. You've already had a copy. Anyone any questions to ask on the budget papers or paper, single sheet? If you're all happy with the budget paper, I'll move on.
I'm happy to propose that, Tom.
Thank you, Jill. You'll second that, Ben? Or Tess?
Yeah, I can second that.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 7. To note decisions taken in the delegation to support the community response to COVID-19, report to committee plan report to community plan committee. I'll ask Hannah just to run through this. I mean, it's there in front of you, but I'll just ask you to run through that one, Hannah.
Yeah, we've just to make sure that we cover some of the decisions that were made with the community support to in Crewe. So it's a kind of to note really, just to keep you informed.
Yep, thank you. And moving on to item 8. This one's going to go to this one will have to go to council for ratification, won't it? This is the terms of reference for the community plan 2021. I don't think there's any major changes to the normal terms of reference, unless anyone's spotted anything different. I would like to raise any question.
Which page are we on here? Sorry, Chair.
It's item 8 on the agenda. It's the Crewe Town Council Committee Terms of Reference Community Plan Committee 2020-21. It's a 2-sided document.
Okay. Was that stapled with what you'd sent out, Hannah?
No, it was in the additional pack, the additional info that went out. So
let's have a look.
It's just on the screen there now, Des.
Were there any significant changes? Sorry.
No, well, we run through this as the first on the first committee meeting. Obviously, this is the first committee meeting that we've had formally. So no, there's no significant changes to what was adopted last year. The only slight one is, but we'll cover that a bit further down in the agenda, about having oversight of targeted funds we can do that, but again, it's just making sure that it's written down and it's all formalised.
Okay, thank you.
Everyone happy with that? Because this is this will obviously go to council to be passed to council, okay?
The only question that I had,
Very
in
good.
the previous version of the terms of reference,
Yep.
we had an item which covered the community plan being able to co-opt external members to allow for any specialist knowledge and experience. I know it's covered in standing orders. I just wondered if we were planning to replicate it in this document as well.
It's at the top, it's the third line down where, yeah, that'll be covered.
This is line 3 on the document you referred to, Hannah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, happy with that then?
yeah.
Okay.
Obviously, I need to go to Specsavers.
Anything else on item 8? Okay, moving on to item number 9.
Tom, I think we'll have to have them proposed and seconded.
Oh, I do
So happy
apologise.
to propose them.
Right, thank you. Thanks for that, Jill. So Jill's just proposed item number 8. I need a seconder, please.
I'm happy to second the terms of reference.
Right, thank you. Sorry about that. Item 9. COVID-19 community response update report to Community Plan Committee, Monday, 20th of July, 2020. Again, Hannah, I'll ask you to just run through it. I mean, it's fairly straightforward, but just in case anyone's got any questions.
Yeah, again, I'll just get it up on the screen so you can have a look. So yeah, the main focus of the work that we've been doing has been on mainly related around the food banks. So Wishing Well, St Paul's, Chants and the Salvation Army. We have kept in regular touch with a large number of other organisations, but some of them are still closed at the moment. So we're talking a lot about recovery and how they can reopen. Just depends on the restrictions in place, obviously how many people they can have in and out of the building, or the nature of the clients that they work with. We are holding bi-weekly meetings with community groups, which seems to have been really, really well attended. And there's been quite a lot of partnership projects coming out of it, people starting to work together, which is really positive. But yeah, we're still in a bit of a limbo with many organisations because they don't know when they can fully open the services that they've been providing or would have provided before.
Yeah. Everyone happy with item 9? If so, I'll move on to item 10.
Hi, Tom. I propose that the committee notes that report.
Okay. Thank you. So we note that report, and now moving on to item number 10. This is the Crewe Town Council Community Grant Scheme Policy and Guidance. Again, Hannah, is there anything? Well, I know there's difference. There's been some slight alterations to this one, hasn't there?
There has been a slight change to this. Again, this is something that we take to the first meeting every year.
Yeah.
So we need to sign it off. I know we have discussed it before, so yeah, it doesn't drastically look any different. The only thing that I've added in, which is in the yellow section, is again covering setting up specific grant funds. So again, it's just tightening up the policy. So what we're looking for resolution on this one is to recommend to council next week that it be adopted.
Everyone happy with that?
Happy to propose that, Tom.
Thank you, Jill. Ben or Tess?
I just had one question, and I don't know whether it's better covered under this or a later item. But obviously, it's on the agenda for us to consider creating other streams of funding. I just wondered what the guidance would be around groups being able to apply to this being the small grant scheme and any other targeted pots of money that we bring forward.
I'm over to you, Hannah, on that one.
But it's up to you guys. So sometimes, obviously, on the normal grant scheme, if you have you have to apply every other year.
Yeah.
With the targeted ones, we can change that. So I think what Ben's talking about is if they apply to the grant scheme, could they also apply to apply for one of the other the grant funds that we want to set up? So it'd be down to how we would write the guidance on those forms. We have done it before. A few years ago, we had a homeless fund, and we made sure that if one of those groups had received a normal grant, that they could also apply for the homeless fund. So it's up to you guys whether you want to take it out or whether you want me to make an amendment to the policy so we can take it to council.
So what you're saying is it's perfectly feasible for someone to apply to 2 different funds?
It could be, yeah. It's obviously down to what committee decides. Sometimes we might say, no, we don't want people to be able to access, one organisation to access multiple funds. So it just depends perhaps on what what that pot's been set up for. So I think Jill's got a question, Tom.
Okay, Jill?
I'd like to say that I don't think, unless it's really exceptional circumstances, that we should be giving 2 grants in the same year to the same organisation, unless it's for very, very different activities. So somewhere like St Paul's, which does a food bank and reclaim furniture, I can understand where they might apply for 2 grants in the same year, but I think it's we shouldn't be seen to be giving 2 grants to the same organisation for the same purpose or for the same activity. And I think that does need writing in somewhere.
Yeah.
It's difficult because so many community organisations run different services, don't they? But I think we shouldn't be giving it for the same service or for the same function. We should have 1 grant per function per year.
So you do that amendment, Hannah, will you?
Yeah, I can write something and that's not a problem.
Okay, thanks very much. Anything else before we move on this particular subject? If not, because again, this will have to go to council, full council again, won't it?
Yes, so we need to make a recommendation to council that it's adopted, subject to the amendments that you've just asked for.
Well, I'm happy to propose it's passed to council, recommended to council with the amendment, Hannah. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill.
I'll second that.
Thanks, Tess. So there you go, Hannah. We're all done. We just need you to do the amendment.
Yeah, and then I'll run it past you when it's done.
Right, thank you very much. Item 11, to consider the establishment of the grants working group and its terms of reference. Terms of reference. There's not a. Are you going to put this one up on the screen, Hannah? And then we can.
Yeah, just sorting it out. There you
Yep.
go.
It says there's not a great deal on this piece of paper, but I think the most important thing here is that we just have to a quorum of 2 is very straightforward. Function of the working group to evaluate applications submitted for the grant scheme, the same as we've always done in the past. But I think the thing with this is we would need a committee a separate little committee, because with the things that's coming up further down the agenda, I think this committee could be very important, because it's going to be the grants committee that's going to decide who gets and who doesn't get the grants. So anyone who would like to be on this particular grants committee, or are you all happy just to be called when necessary? No?
I'm happy to volunteer for it.
Oh, thank you, Ben. Anyone else?
Hi, Tom.
Hi, Jill.
Got to be frozen.
I can hear
Tom.
you. I can hear
Oh,
you, Jill. Are you all
Right. Yeah, I think it generally meets quarterly, doesn't it, when the grants are submitted?
Yes.
And
No.
we don't, am I right that with there's 3 or 4 members? Is that what we've done in the past, Hannah?
Yes.
So, I mean, yeah, ideally, it needs to be a cross-section of the committee if we can do that, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, yes, that would be ideal, because I mean, well, Ben's agreed to be, so it leaves yourself and Tess.
Jamie, did you have something you wanted to say?
Oh, sorry, I forgot you was there.
No, it don't matter now. My question just been answered by Jill.
Okay.
Sorry, Chair. Is this rather than, because I know that the grants are reviewed and obviously then come to community plan, is this proposed so that we don't get into the big debates in the community plan meeting? They've already been scrutinised. Is this what this is talking about?
Yeah, so basically the process works is that the applications come in and are quickly assessed by myself, and then we call a grants working group meeting. So it goes through, we get a steer from members if there's any questions or anything more information that they feel that's needed to be added. It gives us the opportunity then to go back to the organisation to get those questions and queries sorted out before it comes to committee. So it makes sure that, we've got as much information as possible before it goes on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
So would you be quite happy to go on it and Jess?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. So moving on.
Sorry, can I just clarify? Do you want me to send it out to other committee members to see if they want to join it, or do you want to?
I don't see any problem with that, Hannah. That would probably be a good idea, because at least it means if anyone's unavailable, it means we can get these things sorted without having to worry too much about it. So yeah, that would be great. So again, do I need to have this to go to council? Or this is just something for us internally, isn't it?
The working group terms of reference can be done at committee. So that bit doesn't need to go to council.
Okay. So moving on then to item 12. To consider matters related to the Crewe Town Council grant scheme and establishment of the COVID-19 Community Response Fund. Again, Hannah, I'll let you give us a quick overview of this.
So during the discussions that we've been having with local groups, as we said before, some are still functioning, but in a slightly different capacity. Others are now starting to reopen, and they need or would benefit from some financial assistance. Obviously, a lot of places will have to adapt buildings or get additional equipment, or do certain bits and pieces so that they can open safely to the public. So the proposal on this one is we've got £50,000 in the grant scheme. We haven't run the first quarter of the grant scheme, so we've yet to spend any of it. So what we're proposing is that we have £20,000 ring fenced in the grant scheme that people can apply into for, like I said, equipment or any kind of bits and pieces, PPE and all that kind of stuff that they might need so that they can reopen. The process for this one is very, very similar to the normal grant scheme. It's got its own set of guidance. It's got its own application form, which is a lot smaller, because we might not necessarily need as much detail as we would do. So the idea behind it was that it's a really quick process for people to apply into and for us to kind of decide on. For this fund, they can apply for up to £1,000. So yeah, the idea is that we'll decide if we have a set number of applications come through, so we can have a grants working group meeting. The working group can then assess it. We say yes or no and let the organisation know, and then all the relevant paperwork, so the funds can be transferred over to them. And then yeah, once the project's completed or the work that they needed has been done, they'll complete an end of grant report form like they would in the normal process. And then we'll invite them to come to the annual town meeting for the feedback like we normally do.
Thanks for that, Hannah. And that's it in a nice simple form on the screen there for you all. I don't see any problems with this other than we don't know how many we're going to get. You know. Any thoughts? Yeah, Jess.
Sorry, Chair. Yeah, just going back to Jill's point before about applying for the same organisation applying for a fund twice in a financial year.
Yep.
I think I'm trying to think what the terms and conditions are for a normal grant. Is you're not allowed to apply is it 24 months or is it you're allowed to apply annually? I can't remember what the terms are. Is this out?
It's every other month, every other year. It's a normal grant scheme. Yeah. What we have written into the guidance for this one is that because it's very specific and it will be the difference between an organisation opening up or functioning, that we would waiver the every other year. So this one's quite a good example of where we can do that.
That was what I was getting at. I was just thinking we're not making sure we're not excluding people who might need it who've already applied previous. So that's
yes. So we have suggested that in with this guidance for exactly that reason. We don't do it very often, but it will be quite specific. So,
cool.
Jill, did I see your hand?
Yes. I'd like to, following on Tessa's point, say 1 grant per organisation per year, because this should only be a temporary 1 year grant, shouldn't it? It's a response to COVID. So only one grant from this fund.
Yes.
That the grant applications are sent round all committee members.
Okay.
I understand that the power to give the money, it will be delegated to the grants working group, but I think all members need to see them and be able to comment if they've got any concern, because it's quite a lot to delegate. I mean, I don't know how many applications you might get, but I would imagine initially you'll be talking about quite a few £1,000s, which that committee will be delegated to give out to the organisations to support them. So I think all members need to see those applications and come back to you if you've got any concerns. And also we would have to ask the council to delegate that spending power to the committee, and then the committee would have to delegate it to this working group, wouldn't it? Because I think all spending has to go through a council meeting, and you might want to give out grant, just after a council meeting, and you can't expect the community organisation to wait 2 months to get the grant till the next council meeting. So I think that needs some thought really.
Yeah, we've written in the report that that it's a recommendation to council that we set up this response so that we can use it for that purpose.
So you'll
Um,
send round the applications to all the committee members?
Yeah, that's fine. I can write that in.
Yeah.
Okay, Jill, you happy with that?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. So I'll definitely need someone to propose this one to go to council.
Yeah,
I
I'll
can
propose that, Chair.
So Ben's proposing, and Tess, I take that was
Can,
you.
Yeah,
can we just have it clear what we're actually proposing? Can somebody sort of give me the form of words that'll go to council, just so I know exactly what we're proposing?
Recommendation to council to establish the fund and using money in the existing grant scheme pot for that fund.
Yeah, but you'll also need permission from council to delegate the spending of that money to the grants working group. Because currently that you don't have any permission to spend that money. The committee has, but the grants working group doesn't.
Grants working group doesn't, but I do because it's under £1,000, so it is under our scheme of delegation.
But if that's putting a lot of, if anything goes wrong, Hannah, it's a lot for you to have. I think it might be better if you ask the council to delegate that power to the grants working committee, and then it spreads the responsibility.
Okay.
I think it's, I mean, I'm sure these decisions will be taken, with due consideration, but I think it probably just spreads it a little bit so that there's no comeback on any officer or anybody else, that it's a joint decision.
So you're happy to reword that, Hannah, just so that it covers the points Jill's just made?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point, because I mean, I appreciate the point that the situation is where you are, but we don't want people, as Jill points out, we don't want people waiting to get this money, and we don't want you out there on a limb having to. So yeah, I mean, any support you can get, which I think if you word it right, and then we can take it to council, and we'll make sure we've got it all, our T's crossed and our I's dotted. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Are you happy with that now, Jill?
Yes, thank you. I don't want to get to council and then be told by the clerk that we haven't got it right.
No, that's fair enough. Fair enough. We'll make sure. I'll have a quick word with Pete before we go. No, fair point, Jill. Right, and Hannah, moving on to item 13.
Yeah. So.
Community project commissioning process report to community planning Monday, 20th of July. To consider matters related to establishing a community project commissioning process. Attached, here we go again. Thank you.
So yeah, this is a similar process to one that we used a few years ago. One of the pieces of work that we were going to do early on in the financial year was to put together a plan of what we were going to focus on over the next couple of years. But obviously with things as they are, we've not had the opportunity to do that. In the bi-weekly meetings we've been having with voluntary groups, there's been 4 kind of key themes that have come out, and quite a lot of organisations they've all been saying the same thing. So they think that we need to focus on mental health, older and vulnerable people, parents and kind of unpaid carers, and a big piece of work around bereavement and loss. So they're semi-similar to the pots of funds that we've got in the budget. So the idea is that we will set up 4 groups, which organisations can join in with. There'll be £10,000 in each pot under each section, under each theme. Yep. They'll be encouraged to form a partnership project, and and yeah, kind of bid into it. This has actually popped up with another organisation who is running, has just established a very similar themed fund. So I have been talking to them about how we could potentially work together and the possibility of whether we can attract some more funding for it. But obviously until it's been signed off by members, we can't progress those conversations any further. So again, it will have its own, it's got its own guidance, eligibility criteria, application form, and this is the rough idea of how the process would work. So once it's the fund's established, we'll go back out to the group, set up the working groups, run a couple of facilitated sessions with them, let them kind of get together, write the bids, send them in. So, and it'll hopefully be done in about a month. Those bids can then go on the next agenda in September. So they will go to committee for approval.
So again, Hannah, you're hoping that all this will be complete by the 31st of March next year. So this is a year's programme.
Yes, this one is. The hope is, the aim is that we can gather information, stats and evidence, I suppose, so that we can then look at either building on what they've started or again attracting additional funding to support those projects.
Right. So again, this will definitely have to go to council. So before we get to that stage, has anybody got any questions?
I have, Tom.
Yep.
I'm
By the way.
sorry, I forgot to take my hand down from last time. It's the story of my life. Who's going to actually do this? Is it just our community officer, or are we going to have CVS support?
I'll let our community officer answer that one. But before she does, I would have thought, because I think this is quite a big project. I'm sure she's more than capable of handling it. But I think, unless Hannah says different, I think it should be better off when she gets involved in this with support from CVS, definitely. But I can't speak for her, so I'll let you answer the question now.
Yeah, we can certainly approach them for it. If I can progress the talks with the donor organisation, we will be able to tap into their back office facilities. They regularly do things like this, so they can certainly help with it.
I'm just aware that we had some CVS support, which was on the previous agenda that we agreed for 3 months.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I'm not sure if that's continuing or not, because obviously it's not on this agenda for the committee to discuss that subject tonight. So would it be part of that plan, or would this be a separate support? Thank you.
It would be a separate support, because obviously their 3 months has now run out. So yeah, it would be on top of what we've already done work with them.
But we have some funding left from the original budget, yes, don't we? Which
from the allocation,
meant, yeah, which meant we could have some. If you felt that it was necessary, Hannah, you could call on that sort of support, because to me it looks quite a lot of work to get all these groups together and talk to them and so on. So I think it could be quite time consuming. I might be wrong in that, but I think it could be quite time consuming.
Sometimes they are, yeah. It just depends, but yeah, with running 4 themes at the same time is not ideal. But it's I think it'd be well worth us looking at progressing it. As I said, if the CVS would be absolutely fantastic. but also if we do get this additional donors, donor organisation on board, they can certainly help with it. So yeah, and hopefully bring some additional funds. So there'll be more, hopefully, if it works, there'll be more money spent on organisations in Crewe to kind of progress this kind of work.
Just for my benefit, Hannah, to progress this at this meeting, obviously this has got to go to council.
Yeah.
So if we take it to council in its present form, the points Jill's just raised, and as I said in my remarks a few minutes ago, I don't know how much work's going to be involved in, but I do agree with Jill. This is going to be a big project. So, are we saying that if we take this to council and in its present form, once we get, if it's assumed it gets approved by council, we can then return to the CBS involvement?
I would have to check that, but yeah, as far as I'm aware, we can do that.
Yeah, have you? Because I mean, with Rob leaving and Pete starting and all, I mean, there was that, we're in that sort of situation where there was funding available, and then earmarked for if we needed it, and then of course COVID came along and everything just changed completely. Not only did we change Town Clerk, we also changed, everything else changed. So what I don't want to do, as Jill rightly says, it's not on the agenda, so we can't discuss it. So what I'm asking is, if we take this to council, how we deal with it after the event, assuming it's passed at council, we can then discuss the CBS role and all the other things that go with it. Would that be fair?
Yeah.
Is everyone with me on that?
Tom, can I make a suggestion that
Of course, can.
that we add on to this that something about support, any additional support being agreed with the chairman and vice chairman of the committee,
Okay.
and a report brought to the September meeting,
Yes.
because
yes,
that way you've got a recommendation. You and Hannah can judge the situation, talk to you about it, and then you can make that decision if you feel it's necessary, and then just bring the report back to the committee as to what you've done.
I'm quite happy with that. Are you okay with that?
Yeah. So can I just to clarify,
Go ahead.
you're happy to recommend that this process, recommend to council that it's adopted and established,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm quite happy with that. Yeah.
and that and if additional support's needed, then the committee's happy to recommend that as well.
Is that, are you happy with that one, Jill? I've lost you,
Sorry,
Jill.
what you'd actually take to council is words to the effect. Let me think about it. This is a large project, an extensive project, which may require some support for the community plan officer.
Right.
Any decisions about that support are delegated to the chairman and vice chairman of the committee in
Right.
consultation with the community officer. A report will be brought to the September committee.
This is community plan.
And then,
committee.
yeah, because we know it's going to be within budget, because we know we've got the budget, don't we? So,
Yeah.
so does that give you some idea of the form of words, Hannah?
Yeah. So if we need to bring in support over August, when the month for the effective when we establish the working groups.
Yeah, you've got permission then, haven't you?
Yeah, that's fine to bring in someone to support it. That's fine.
Right. Are you okay with that, Hannah?
Yeah. I'm just making sure I've covered all the bases. That's all.
Oh yeah. Oh, we want to get it right.
Yeah, and then we'll retrospectively report on that in September or whenever the
September.
next meeting. Yeah, September.
Yeah, September. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, so I'm happy to propose that, and I mean, it really is just about getting this initial contact made, isn't it, and the initial thing set up.
Yeah.
And you will need that little bit. I think you'll need that bit of extra support, because I think you'll have a lot of meetings, or so it's nice to have that understanding that you could have that bit of support if you need it, and you're not going to be trying to do everything at once. So I'm happy to propose that, Tom, as a recommendation to council.
With the additions that Hannah's been quickly
Yeah,
jotting down.
with that addition, yeah.
Yeah, oh, that's fine. Yeah, thank you very much. Will someone second that proposition?
Yes, I'm happy to second that, Chair.
Thank you, Ben. That is it.
Can I just go back to
course,
item, which one is it? Item 10 about the grants policy.
Yep.
Obviously, we didn't open the normal grant scheme at the beginning of the financial year. So do you want to reopen that now, or do you want to decide that at the next September meeting?
I'm not sure. I'll open to the committee, but personally, I mean, August, generally a pretty quiet month anyway, and we're going to have an awful lot going on, I think, with your COVID one, with this one.
Yeah, keep it closed.
I think my suggestion would be that we keep it closed. I'm quite happy to listen to any argument, but personally, I think we should leave it closed. We've got enough on as it is.
Yeah, that's fine.
I would support Tom in saying leave it closed, and because it's holiday time and most people are not back to normal, if there is going to be normal after COVID anyway, are they? The groups and community people are not meeting. So I think it's wiser to leave it closed.
Yeah,
And I just wanted to make sure that, make sure you're happy with that.
no, that's fine, Hannah. No, we leave it closed. That's perfectly fine. Anything else?
Okay. No, I think that's it. We've reached the end of the agenda.
We certainly have. So the final thing is to note the dates of the next meeting. So the next meeting that's important at the moment, obviously, is going to be the 21st of September. And hopefully by then, Hannah will have a lot more of these things boxed off and sorted out, because I think you've got a bit of work on you. But I think the town will benefit a lot from it, mine, because I've enjoyed the meetings the Zoom meetings and that, where I've sort of just joined in and listened to what all these community groups do. It's quite enlightening. An awful lot going on in the town that I didn't know anything about. So really quite enlightening. Right then, in that case, then, committee, thank you very much for your attendance. It's been an absolute pleasure. I wish you a safe journey home, but you're already there.